Right, first thing I've got to do is negotiate this. Break a leg, they cried.
I think that's why you wanted to stand.
Yes, quite. Right. I would like to start by thanking everyone for coming here to celebrate the wedding of Rachel and David, Mr. and Mrs. Silk Thompson. It's wonderful that you're with us to share this special day. A day we've been waiting for, let's face it, for a long, long time. I know that some of you have travelled a long way to be here, and the furthest I heard is Will and Gilda from Canterbury, but several of you from London, and I guess all points north, south, east and west. However, we all know how much these Aussies like to put one over on us Poms, and today is no exception. On Tuesday, unexpectedly, our, and I can explain that later, dear cousin Mandy arrived from Adelaide to be here. Give us a wave, Mandy, if you... She's a shy and retiring lady. Well, in an Aussie sort of way anyway, as I'm sure you'll find out. But she'll come out of her shell as the day wears on. Mandy would have come here with her dad, our Uncle Ben, husband Neil, son Jonathan, but sadly Uncle Ben is receiving treatment for a serious illness and unable to travel. So Neil and Jonathan are looking after him whilst Mandy's away. We send them our love. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome my mother, who has not been too well recently either, having suffered a bout of pneumonia. The family have all been keeping their fingers crossed that she'd recover in time to attend the wedding, which she'd so been looking forward to, and we're all thrilled and thankful she's made it. Enjoy the day, Mum. Love you. Now to the bride. I hope... yeah, that comes later. I hope you'll all agree with me how beautiful she looks and understand how proud I am to be standing here at this moment. I started to think about this speech by looking up the origins of the name we chose for her, Rachel. I found it is from the Hebrew for a female sheep, a ewe. A ewe, in other words, but having the innocence of a lamb. The Bible tells us... maybe. The Bible tells us she was a somewhat self-willed, though beautiful in both form and countenance, young daughter of Laban and one of Jacob's wives. I'll let you make your own minds up as to whether we chose well. It's a cliche, but I really have known Rachel since the moment she was born. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Rachel decided she couldn't wait any longer, and that was the time she was going to say hello to the world. We never made it to the hospital. She was born on the sofa with no medical help. Something neither of us will ever forget. Very scary. However, fortunately, all turned out well. As a baby, Rachel was happy and contented. She was never happier, though, than while delving into the dressing-up box and donning some outlandish combinations. A talent many of you will agree she honed to perfection in later years. When teaching her to read, she told us she only needed to know the word danger, so she wasn't going to bother to learn any others. At school, Rachel excelled at art, for which she had a natural talent. She was always making things, and I remember our mouse schoolroom she constructed, down to the finest detail, tiny desks and pencils, everything to scale, but without any plans. Everything was just right there in her head. Wait for this one. School plays are always a passion, and I recall her having a starring role as Wendy in the production of Peter Pan, playing opposite a boy she was sweet on at the time. Oh, that's your mother. Rachel went to university in Chester and read art history. She loved living in the city and made lots of lifelong friends, many of whom are here today. Moving to Chester, was to prove pivotal in her life, of course. After uni, when I suggested perhaps following a conventional career path, she said to me that she didn't want to be doing the same job day in, day out, like me. She wanted to earn a living by doing something creative. Despite my father's advice about the need for a regular salary, she ignored it as usual and went ahead anyway. She studied and qualified as a professional makeup artist, and today has 3 jobs on the go. I'm still not sure about the economics of it all, but I do know that she loves her work, so achieved what she set out to do. So well done to you for that. Sorry to burst your balloon, David, but Rachel has always been a popular girl, so was never short of boyfriends. She did tell us, though, soon after your first date, that she met a guy named David, who'd taken her out for dinner and mentioned how well they got on. And he paid the bill. Well, when we next saw her, she was still talking about him and how she'd since met his parents, John and Alison, and how well they got on. We thought perhaps this one's a goer. Well, some 10 whole years later, here we are today. 10 whole years later. And I'm very pleased to say we were right. It really was a goer. Now, David. Yes, David. David, on behalf of us Silks, welcome to the family. You've got on well with all of us, right from the start. And I know they'd like me to say how delighted they are to witness this marriage. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you and your family over the years. As you know, I do have a tendency to tell it like it is, but I don't recall us ever having had a cross word. And I know you've listened with rapt attention to my views on football and appreciated my efforts to educate you about the joys of becoming a Baggies fan. I would like to ask one favour, though. Take pity on an old man in future. I witnessed David's legendary strength and fitness quite recently, when I'm helping Rachel to move out of the flat. I'd really struggled getting a large and heavy suitcase into the house and was suffering a few twinges in my back, you know. I warned David how heavy it was and suggested we both carry it upstairs. He then picked it up, gave me a pitying look, saying, "Oh, that's no problem," and proceeded to march it up the near vertical staircase, unaided, leaving me whimpering at the bottom, totally humiliated. However, I feel I would be neglecting my duty if I didn't take this opportunity to give my new son-in-law some advice. I'll never forget what started our first argument. Josette, that's your mother-in-law, said, "What's on the TV?" And I replied, "Dust." So that's trouble later. Married life can be very frustrating. In the first year of marriage, the man speaks and the woman listens. In the second year, the woman speaks and the man listens. In the third year, they both speak and the neighbours listen. And lastly, whenever you're wrong, admit it. Whenever you're right, shut up. Take heed, young man. To finish, yes, I know I'm a dad, but I always think Rachel has that rare gift of lighting up a room and bringing happiness and joy to those she meets along life's journey. She's a caring and loyal friend and daughter, and Josette and I have been blessed. On behalf of all of us, I would like to wish the newlyweds every success and happiness in the future. As we all know, it's a tough world out there, particularly in these straitened times, but together they make a strong couple. And I've no doubt that with all our support, they're going to have a very happy life together. Please join with me as I propose the toast. The bride and groom. Thank you. Enjoy the day. Okay, they do.
Ting, 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 ting. That's right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Bit of a tough act to follow, to be honest. It's quite a polished speech, so I'll do my best as I freestyle through. But first of all, I'd like to say, in line with any tradition, I'd like to speak for the first time on behalf of my wife and I. And sort of in some ways, you're here at a very special day, the start of a new dynasty. As I take Rachel's name as well, so we become David and Rachel Silk Thompson, which is something a little bit different. So, and again, is the start of hopefully the start of a long and happy relation for us both. Obviously, start by saying, John, thank you very much for a fantastic introduction and fantastic start to the day, and thank you for allowing us to, or me to take your daughter's hand in marriage, so I appreciate that.
I had plenty of time to think about it.
And for those who don't know John, I think in this last 10 years I've perhaps done a number of things, worked in a number of areas overseas and in the UK, and in some cases been around quite difficult people, had difficult circumstances, particularly in Afghanistan and Iraq, but certainly the first time I met John is probably one of the most harrowing experiences of my life. For those of you who know The Apprentice, well, that's only 12 weeks, it's been 10 years. So a mixture of Dragon's Den and The Apprentice, but I can say hopefully I've passed that final interview with John, allowing me to take his daughter's hand in marriage when I asked him by phone from Cyprus about now 18 months ago, so thank you very much for that, John. The second one is to say, echo John's remarks actually about thanks for everyone to come in, been really great to see you, and also to mention again people who couldn't be with us here today. So I'd like to do the second toast, which is for absent friends. Absent friends. Absent friends. And now to Rachel. It's very difficult to put in words actually what Rachel means to me and the impact she had on my life. In some ways she's sort of the element of my character that I've always been scared to express. So I appreciate it allowing me to sort of to do that through herself. So next thing I'd like to say is that you might not see until we go upstairs that our theme today is a small theme about the Olympics and looking at perhaps people who are hopefully going to have success for the GB team in less than 90 days now, and also one of the tables is named after an Australian hopeful as well. And I was thinking about in terms of what their journey for the last 4 years has been like, and the dedication and commitment they require to really reach that zenith of sporting prowess. And my commitment to Rachel is that I'll put as much effort, commitment and time into our relationship, and ensuring that we work together and successful in the next 30, 40, 50 years, so I'm looking forward to that. Be a challenge. Next thanks is to my wonderful parents. I certainly wouldn't be in this position. I don't think I would have the depth and the breadth of character that I've got without them. They've certainly given me my moral compass, and so far I've not gone too far wrong in my working life, so I appreciate the commitment and the sacrifices they made to give me the education and the upbringing I did, which is fantastic. So thank you for my parents. You can see my dad there.
That's my mum's dad.
So thank you very much for that. Now the easy bit really, I suppose, is to say thank you to everyone who's been involved, and something as big as this does take some real effort. So I'll first of all say thank you very much to the I'll say thank you to the bridesmaids. So we've got some presents here, so I'll hand them out. First of all, we've got a present for Isla, so thank you very much.
Isla.
Where's Isla? Poppy, come up here.
Grab this. Can you give me a kiss? Thank you. To Emma. to Laura. Oh, there you are. Hello. I'll come to you, don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then to my sister, Miriam. Your hair's pretty good at organising interviews, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next stage is to give out some presents to the best man and the ushers. All the ushers essentially very close friends to me. They give me a great deal of support over my adult youth in some ways, especially given the fact that in the case of Luke and Will, they've known me pretty much the entirety of my relationship with Rachel. I met Luke, Will, Teddy, Bert at university in 2001, and it was only 2-3 months later I met Rachel, so it's quite nice that they've been there for the start of the relationship and they can join us today, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, go for, where's Luke gone?
Yes.
Luke.
Keeping the doors.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And then also Leon looks fantastic. He's done a really good job today. Okay?
Yeah.
Check him out. Yeah. Don't be firing at me later. Two more presents for again people who've been pretty much pivotal to today. First is for Zarina, who's done a fantastic job on the cake, I believe. So I appreciate that.
Okay,
So where's Zarina?
Serena's.
There we are.
No, it's that one.
That one.
Should be.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank
Thank you. And then we should have Roxana
Yeah.
doing a fantastic job with the makeup on the bridesmaids. Not that they need
Yeah,
much
as
work,
well.
to be honest.
You're going to enjoy that one, isn't it?
What happened to you?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all the hair, makeup.
Right, now to the highlights of. I'll get Mum's, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen mine?
Is there one there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's my mum. And then there should be another one for your mum.
So the first one's for Josette. Thank you very much.
Oh, right, okay. There's one in the boot of the car for you.
Wait. I will take the blame for this before I go and stand up there. I thought they're all in there. Yeah. It was Luke.
And I've heard someone likes these.
This is a Black Panther.
Thomas.
Kiss onto it.
How have you? Oh, thank you. That's a Thomas for me. Yes, thank you. Yes.
And finally, but certainly not least, is to Will, the best man, who's been a fantastic best man. Certainly in terms of sorting things out prior, pivotal on my stag do, made things go really, really smoothly. Even today, he was sorting out a bit of financial issues where we needed to pay the singer, and straight away it's sorted. So he's been really good at firefighting. And without much further ado, I'll hand you over to.
Anyway, yeah.
Louise,
We're going to pay her.
He may not thank me after this.
I'm worried. That means I'll get a drink.
I'm going to move back a little bit so I can see everyone. So, I'm not used to being this tall. Okay, let's go ahead. Firstly, I have a few formal duties as best man. Once again, thanking everyone for being here to share the special occasion with David and Rachel. It's been a great day so far, and hopefully, I'm looking forward to the food if my appetite returns after this. I want to say, and I'm sure you'll all agree, how beautiful the bridesmaids look today. Yep, and Rachel, of course, looking stunning. Okay, before I go too far, I'll introduce myself a little bit to those of you who don't know me. I'm Will. I've known David, as he said, for over 10 years now. We met up in university at Lancaster, lived together in halls with a few of the other guys that are here today. As it turns out, Dave's already said, known Rachel for pretty much the same amount of time, since it was only a few months after Dave went to uni that he met Rachel. And I know that the best man speech is meant to be littered with drunken stories and crazy situations and misdemeanours, but I did think it's best to keep it about the groom and not about the bride. Anyway, so back to Dave. When Dave asked me to be his best man speech, I was very honoured, but I also thought Dave may be a hard person to give a best man speech for. And I've attended a few weddings, and I know the best man speech can be a bit mixed bag, some good, some very bad. So I thought best do some research. I went online, watched a number of best man speech for inspiration, but I've managed to wipe them all from my mind. So it didn't yield very much useful information. So I thought, okay, well, I've known Dave from 2001, but it's obviously not where his story starts. So I had the chat with Alison and John and thought, I'll see if they've got any material. And actually it was very useful. Okay. So, they did recount numerous stories of when Dave was young. Unfortunately, none about him wetting the bed or being scared of the dark, which is a pity because that would have been great for me. What he did tell me was that when Dave was young, he was very much an accomplished athlete. Yeah? Excelled at most sports, but really football and running where he went. I believe he used to train daily. Yeah, he'd pack up his stuff into his school bag, into his backpack, slip on his gym shorts and run 4 miles to school. Rhiannon, on the other hand, wasn't too keen about this, because Rhiannon would leave school a couple of minutes later, get on the girls' bus to school, and then have to deal with, on a daily basis, a mile down the road, the bus almost falling over, as schoolgirls scampered to one side, and called, "Dave Thompson alert!" As Dave ran past the bus in his very small shorts. I did think this was an isolated occasion, but I do actually know Dave has an affiliation for small shorts. There is Exhibit A in the boot of my car. Not with me. But I believe he's taking him on his honeymoon with him. We can share them with you later, but they were a little bit X-rated, I thought, personally. Sorry, Dave. Anyway, I believe one of the other tasks of the best man is to help those of you who may not know everything about Dave to get to know him a little bit better. So, how to describe Dave? Mature, intelligent, funny, handsome. Sorry, Dave. Can't see your handwriting. No. When I try and describe Dave, I'd say he's a man of few words. Which those of you who know Rachel may know that's good because she more than makes up for that. In all honesty, when I try and think about the type of person David is, I remember back to a time when he asked me to give him a character reference for a job. I couldn't think of one bad element to his nature. Not that I was trying, but I couldn't. The words that jumped out when describing David are honest, trustworthy, unassuming, modest, and of course, for those that know him from uni, sexy. I don't think you can describe David without also mentioning how close he is to his sister Rhiannon. Always looking out for her, including when they were young. Was an occasion where there was a playground bully, and who'd been quite mean to Rhiannon. David, being the older brother, having his protective nature, done exactly as any of us would do, and he strode straight across the playground, right up to the mother of the boy. He said, "Do you know your son's been bullying my sister?" Anyway, I know Dave and Rachel have been apart in the last 10 years. Dave's adventures with the army, taking him far-flung places, doing the stuff only the brave do in order to do their duty. And I know a lot of you guys are here today, so hats off to you for the work you do. I know Dave's commanded. I know that the guys that Dave's commanded not only respect him as a man and a leader, but also as a person. Many are friends with him, and that kind of speaks volumes about the type of person Dave is. One story that John shared with me that reflects the respect they have for him was when David first joined the One Cheshires and he joined the boxing team. So the story goes, he managed to work his way through the bouts, beating each opponent with athleticism, determination, grit. Yeah. He gets placed in the final against the corporate Ridget Wright, known as Ridget Wright because his right hand makes people go rigid. Well, David, he took him the distance. Yeah, he sat him on his backside twice. He lost on points. But after that, the guys in the regiment carried him around the base on his shoulders because he thought Dave done a great job and shows respect to have for him. On another occasion, though, I believe he did lose some of that respect. The Sergeant Booker affair, I think the family know it as. Yeah, when David was so incompetent with his flaming sambuca, he set fire to his face. Okay. Anyway, if I do try and stand here and list Dave's achievements and read them out, we'll be here all day. 400 metre record holders, football players, could have been sportsmen of many different things, so I won't do that. Yeah. What I will say is Dave's quite a traditional and sweet guy. I know how he met Rachel was actually quite romantic. I'll paint a picture, okay? 17th of December 2001. Dave was out with one of his mates in Chester. Rachel was out with a few of hers. I gather a few of them here today. This bit isn't so sweet because they were in Flanagan's, and those of you who know Chester know Flanagan's isn't the prettiest of settings. It was a pound a drink, that's why they were in there. Okay. But, as the story goes, their eyes met over the dance floor. The gaze locked. Rachel instantly has a feeling she knew him from somewhere. Yeah, some said it was a dreams about Prince Charming. Anyway, David glided across the dance floor, seeing the music had stopped, people around them had disappeared. David reached Rachel and said, "So it looks like you're into fashion." Not really expecting Prince Charming to obviously. So David and Rachel have a lot of things in common, apart from the love of fashion. The sense of humour, the wild sides, which he let out of the box a few times a year. I love his salsa dancing, yeah, and I believe Dave has a signature move, his sunshine move. I can ask him to show us now, but I'm sure we'll see it later. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see it later anyway. Yeah. I know David's parents may describe him in jest as Captain Chaos or Major Disaster, yeah, but it's clear to see how much he love him, yeah, and are proud of everything he's achieved. It's also clear to see how much you love Rachel, and I've seen her as part of the family for years. Yeah. Rachel in her own right has had to deal with a lot with Dave, you know, being away a lot during the relationship. She's the one left behind here to keep things going while he's away on duty, and she's done an amazing job of it. She's always patient with him when he gets back and settling back into normal life again. She's one of the guys, and has been from the start. She's funny, caring, outgoing, and of course, she's just plain lovely. Okay. I know that for Rachel, David is a safe place, and it's a cliche that he's a rock, but I know how much Rachel loves David, I know how much David loves Rachel, and we do anything for her, and that type of love is hard to measure. I think the most wonderful thing in life is find that one person that makes you more than you are, makes you a better person, a more successful person, a more patient person, a more loving person, and you do exactly the same for them. And I think David and Rachel found that person, so it gives me immense pleasure to invite you once again to raise your glasses in a toast. Mr. and Mrs. Silk Thompson.
Brilliant.